2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Organization want their respect. Laker Nation want their respect. I want my damn respect, too.
Welcome back to The Jump. Now joining us, our NBA insider, Brian Windhorst. Brian, I know you are really, really disappointed not to be sitting next to me for that smoke machine today. I just want to warn you that if there is a deal that is announced or at least leaked before the deadline and you're on with us, you are going to hear this. And, you know, I'm sorry about the noise. What can I tell you?
Key player alert.
You'll see our key player alert as well.
Player alert.
It's a little bit better than the year that I electrocuted Brian from the smoke machine. Just a little bit. But, you know, there you go. I want to ask you guys about Anthony Davis because he can sign that long-term extension we've been talking about with the Lakers. All roads, of course, lead to him staying in LA. He does have some choices. And as you heard Woj say in our last block, he's not expected to commit in the immediate days. Brian, can you explain a little bit about what's going on here to our audience, what his options are, and is there any point they should start getting nervous?
Well, there's some speculation out there, Rachel, that one of the reasons why he's going to delay his decision is because the Lakers have some other free agency moves to make, and he just wants to let them know he's watching. Now, I don't think there's any stress out there. He will be a Laker, but one of the guys they have to make a decision on, and it's a tough decision about how much to pay him, is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who is represented by the same agent, Rich Paul. Now, I think Caldwell-Pope is going to have some interest out there in the market. Whether or not he can get enough money out there to actually leave the Lakers is a different story. But this is somewhat reminiscent of when J.R. Smith was a free agent back in 2016 in Cleveland, represented by Rich Paul, and LeBron took his sweet time over that summer before signing. Now, having said that, LeBron did sign before J.R. Smith did. But while I think Anthony Davis has been well aware of his contracts options for months now, maybe it's just a little bit of a check game that he's playing.
Paul, if you were Anthony Davis, would you commit 2 years plus a player option, do the 1-and-1, where you're only committing for another year? We've seen that be a strain on teams, like when Kevin Durant kept doing the 1-and-1s and the 1-and-1s, it just brought all these questions about whether he was really going to stay. Or do you want to keep your flexibility if you're Anthony Davis?
I think it's important for the players these days to keep their flexibility. I always line my contract up directly with LeBron's because, as you can see, he can sign for 35% of the cap after that 10 years. And so, you know, LeBron, he could probably retire in 2-3 years. Who knows? You know, but I'll line my situation up with his. But what Anthony Davis got to understand is you're a Laker, you won a championship. Now, if you decide after 2 years you don't want to be a Laker or 3 years you don't want to be a Laker, it's like, to me, where do you go from there? And so I really would start thinking long term. I would think even for a 5 or 6 year deal. I mean, because after you may win another championship as a Laker. There's nowhere else you can go after being a Laker after winning 2 championships and being the face of the franchise long after LeBron has left. So, I mean, his options are open, and that's a good thing to have these type of options for Anthony Davis to make these type of decisions, because he's one of those players whose game is injury-proof also. He's 7 feet, athletic. He can do so many things with the ball. He can shoot, soft touch, handle the ball. So sky's the limit for this kid. Whether he stays healthy or not, he's still going to get a great deal. So maybe 2 is the way to go.
I like what you're saying, Paul, and I agree. He really has some flexibility. I think lining his contract up with LeBron is a great thing to do. You know, win as much as possible. And then down the line, obviously, you could do the 1-and-1s back at home. I know that was talked about. I think Chicago, a couple other teams where he could possibly go back. He could do his 1-and-1s then. But right now, you want to win as much as possible. And he can make a lot of money on a very good team with the chance to win another championship back-to-back possibly. So I think right now, I don't walk away from that opportunity. I mean, I think, you know, at the end of the day, he's going to be a Laker. And that's just, they're just giving all these, you know, just doing, like you said, playing the game a little bit. Yeah, I know I'm signing there. I'll sign later, you know, just for the drama, you know.
What's life without a little bit of drama? And by the way, Paul, I know that you have your number retired in Boston. Right, exactly. I know, Paul, you have your number retired in Boston Garden, but you're clearly always an LA kid if you're saying, what could you possibly want besides playing for the Lakers?
I mean,
that there's not even a consideration of another team. That's the most LA thing I think I've heard you say in a while. I do want to move on to the Sixers,
live here after basketball anyway.
Yes, for sure. I need a house here before he even came to play for the Lakers. I want to move on to the Sixers, guys, because they made trades to acquire Danny Green, Seth Curry on draft night. So, Brian, what is Philly's next move after what they have done to address their shooting concerns? Because they at least opened up some space on the floor here.
Yeah, and by trading Al Horford, they also opened up some room on their books. They were facing pretty significant luxury tax penalties, and the Al Horford trade gave them some airspace, and so they now can, dip their toes into free agency. But of course, that's not what you're asking about. What you're asking about is, are they going to trade for James Harden?
I'm asking about James Harden, friend. Yes.
These trades really don't help improve their asset base for Harden. It's not like the Rockets are like, oh, they have Danny Green. Oh, this is something we're interested in. Most people in the league believe that if they're going to get serious about James Harden, it's going to take putting Ben Simmons into the deal. Now, Daryl Morey has not made any indication at all that he is willing to do that, and he has been very clear as he's talked to the media about how valuable it is to have two young superstars in their prime. But if James Harden wants to go to Brooklyn, the way to trump any Brooklyn offer is to put in a player that Brooklyn can't match. And so that's what we're going to be paying attention to. It could be weeks, it could be months before something like this would happen.
Vince, would you do a deal if you were the Sixers, and would you do a deal that included Ben Simmons to get James Harden with Joel Embiid?
It's just a tough question. It's what are you looking for? What do you want out of your team? And I think for Houston, first of all, let me say they're doing it right. If you're going to let somebody like this go, who's a stars of stars, you better make sure you're going to get something close. Now, if I'm the Sixers, if you could get James Harden, for sure you're going to do it. And it's just who. I think James Harden and an Embiid would be something special. And then you just put shooters around them and just let these guys do what they do.
Yeah, I'm going to agree.
All right, guys.
I'm telling you, I would love to see James Harden on Philadelphia.
Well, we will leave that question just for a minute because it is indeed time for a key player alert. I'm so glad when we get to hear the siren. Check this out from Serge Ibaka on Twitter. Posted a photo with the caption, "On my way to ...
That might be on his way back
to a breakdown.
Just Boston.
He could be. Let's go to Amin Al-Hassan real quick to break down why Serge Ibaka is so valuable.
All right, guys. Once a VC, always a VC is back. The video coordinator and me couldn't stay away. Here's Serge Ibaka. He's going to be another big free agent on the market, especially for contending teams. Right here, you see his ability to set that down screen for Powell and then roll to the basket and finish strong. A lot of this is predicated because the defense has to respect Ibaka's ability to shoot from the outside, so it opens up a lot of things for him. Here we see Darius Bazley. He closes out a little too late, a little overcommit. Ibaka, one dribble, front of the rim, finishes. Again, this is because they're afraid of his jump shooting from the perimeter. And, over time in Toronto, he's been an effective post scorer, obviously off of pick and rolls, finishes. But here's the big thing you get, the defense, right there. His ability to rim protect, his ability to switch and guard other perimeter players. Serge Ibaka is going to be a big get for someone on the free agent market who's trying to make a move for a championship.
So that's an idea of exactly what is on that airplane right now. Brian, can you give us any insight into what Ibaka's options are? Because Woj reported just in the last hour that the Celtics were clearing up some room and making some trades. Enes Kanter on his way to Portland.
Yeah, so you got to keep an eye on the Celtics with Gordon Hayward, whether or not they would participate in a sign and trade, likely with Indiana, or if they would just re-sign Gordon Hayward. The thing with Serge Ibaka is he will get the most money likely if he stays put in Toronto. But if he wants to move around, if he wants another place maybe to play sort of the back end of his career, and he's willing to take less money, all of a sudden a whole bunch of other teams come into play. Specifically, the Brooklyn Nets, who Kevin Durant was a teammate of his with the Oklahoma City Thunder, of course, and he's been doing some recruiting there. And then the Los Angeles Lakers, he would be a terrific fit. In both of those cases, he'd be playing for a lot less money, but you could see why he'd be interested in listening to those offers.
All right, so Paul, if it was you, where would you land the plane? Would you land the plane in Toronto where you could get more money? Would you land the plane in a place like Boston or LA? What do you think? Or the Nets with Kevin Durant? What do you think?
Say Boston.
No, listen.
On,
me. If I'm him, I wouldn't say Boston. But me, I'm biased to the Boston roots. Of course, you know that. But Serge is at the back end of his career where he needs to maximize his potential to get the most money, where he has the opportunity to possibly get that and win. And so, the only way he gets that is in Toronto. Now, if he's satisfied with what he's made throughout his career, then I'll search for greener pastures in Boston. Doesn't that make sense, guys? Greener pastures, Boston. I mean, come on.
Got it. I think, like I said, signing back with Toronto, I think it all depends on what Fred VanVleet is going to do. We know Gasol has moved on. I think that'll be the issue there. I like him in Brooklyn as a defender, shot blocker, stretch the floor for shooting. That opens up. Now, what do you do when you who do you double off of if he goes to Brooklyn? And defensively, he starts breaks with his shot blocking, and it's already, if the Brooklyn Nets are in half court, one-on-one they're going to score. You get them out in transition, they're tough to guard, and he runs the floor. So a great look in Brooklyn. Oh yeah, and as well as in Boston.
Well, we'll keep you guys posted on where that plane lands. Before I let you go, Brian, I do want to ask you real quick, because we were in the middle of a Sixers conversation when we had our key player alert. The only other question I wanted to ask you was about Daryl Morey. We know that there was so much attention on him in China, and the Houston Rockets games were not shown in China this past season. I know in talking to you off air that the Chinese television actually released a statement after Daryl and the Rockets parted ways. But the Sixers have a lot of business in China, too. What has been the reaction to them? And what did they exactly say after Daryl left Houston?
Yeah, so as you know, China and the NBA were in a deep freeze for about a year. And when Daryl left his job as the Rockets, the CCTV put out a statement which translated to "have a good walk," which kind of sounds nice, but is something that is a phrase the Chinese say about people who have passed away. So I think there was probably a big surprise in China, especially since after the Rockets, the Sixers are one of the most high-profile teams in China. They actively tried to court that market. And certainly it had to be a consideration.